Hi everyone, I'm Mara Webster with In Creative Company, and thank you so much for tuning in with us today. We are a year-round digital talk series bringing you the best creative voices across film, television, theater, and entertainment. And today we're here for a very special conversation about what the last few months have really meant for entertainment and for people who are taking a lot of autonomy over their careers. And one of the things that I love about our guests today, we have the wonderful LULU FALL, Diana O, and Alysia Reiner, is that between the three of you, you've literally covered every cross-section of the arts, from art installations to writing and directing theater, producing film and television, writing music, performing in every single platform. And as people who are all really taking a lot of autonomy over your careers, it feels like that's become a lot more of a necessity these last few months. Have you found that that's a tool that's been serving all of you really well and has really helped you to continue propelling your careers forward during this time?
Absolutely. Versatility is extremely important in this industry, generally speaking, but especially now that the playing field is very even in that everyone is at home, whether you are extremely established or not. There's no production schedules happening, very little to none, and we're all at home, we're all on our computers, we're all trying to create content. And so now is the time, I believe, now has been the season to step up and ramp up that versatility, of course, to continue to engage with your audiences and use your platform for good, but also because for me personally, it helps me mentally because I get anxiety, and especially since this pandemic has hit us on top of the intense racial strife, my anxiety has shot through the roof. So I find that if I am just knee deep in some type of project that is going to empower me and empower other people, members of the Black community, all community members, then that's what I'm going to do. So I think it's important.
I appreciate what you were saying about anxiety, Lulu, just that level of transparency of, doing these panels. And I find that there's so many spaces for artists where they have to do so much posturing. And it's so nice to let that posturing go now that there's this level of humanity and depth that we're being forced to come to terms with, that I feel like has been lacking, that I feel like, what did you think was going to happen? Like, of course, the world was going to fall apart and be hit with a global pandemic. I remember being on the phone with Alysia one day, and we were just talking in very spiritual ways about what this time meant. And I do feel like it's such an empowering time for artists, because if there's anybody who knows how to deal with anxiety, the next paycheck, the next project, what do I have in store? How do I make sure that my creative spirit is alive? Because no one can control our creative spirits but us at the end of the day. No one can kill it, and no one can take that away from us. And now we get to really accept that. And I find that the artist superhero power is that adaptive spirit. And it's really being put to the test right now. But the anxiety is real. It is to pretend and be on this panel and say, like, it's all good. Everyone just keep that spirit alive. You're gonna be fine. Yeah. No one. They're lying to you.
I've said many times during this pandemic that this is like the meditation retreat that nobody signed up for. But I'm the girl who, it's like a free meditation retreat, great! And in fact, I did a virtual meditation retreat with Pema Chodron this past weekend, which was awesome. And one of the things she talked about, the biggest thing she talked about, it was based on her book, Welcoming the Unwelcome, which is kind of perfect for right now. And she talked about warm, loving kindness for yourself. So I think the first thing that I want to say to anyone watching this, creating for me is empowering and gets me out of anxiety, similar to the two magical women on this panel. You're magical too, Mara, but specifically Lulu and Diana, who just spoke. But if that's not warm, loving kindness to you, do what is warm, loving kindness to you. Whatever keeps you from anxiety and keeps you, if that's just reading every novel that you love for the next 6 months, if we have to be home, do that, because maybe out of that in a year, you'll create something magical that none of us could ever anticipate. So the biggest thing of this moment is like, listen to your soul and take warm, loving, kind care of your soul. For me, similar to what you guys were talking about, that means creating. That is how I feel more free. That helps my anxiety. I came up with, I've been working on a movie during this time, and I came up with the idea at 2:30 in the morning when I woke up, and I was like, oh my God, I haven't been on a set. It was, I guess, in like April. And I'm like, I haven't been on a set in a month. What am I going to do? There are all these people at home. Maybe we can think of a way to do a movie with people at home. And to me, it became like a Lars von Trier's dogma. Like, how do we create within this moment?
Yeah, without any of the usual tools. And
yeah, and finding joy in that, like finding like the excitement and the joy of like, oh, how do we do this? What does this mean? When I worked on Diana's piece, like, how do we make this piece into something new that fits in Zoom, but that breaks Zoom,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I wanted to ask you about, Lulu, because, you've always been very open about anxiety and nerves before performances, which is really empowering in of itself. And, obviously now you're still continuing to perform, you're using social media as an incredible way to connect with people. And I was interested if the nerves look different performing in that medium, where you're not just responsible for the performance, but you're kind of a one-woman crew and putting it all together as well. And kind of if that looks different and how you kind of manage and navigate that space for yourself.
Wow. Well, that's a really good question. And thankfully, it's more of a two-person crew because my fiance, Chris, he's a musician, he's an educator, arranger, composer. We actually are in a business relationship together as well. We are writing partners, we write music together. He's also a really, really big nerd. And before this pandemic started, I swear everything happens the way it's supposed to happen because that's just how the universe goes. But Chris has so much equipment in that basement, in his basement studio. And so he's already had like this virtual thing in mind with one of his teaching platforms that he's about to launch. So once the pandemic hit, he said, oh, wow, this is crazy. This is scary. I have all of this equipment that I have yet to use. I'm going to dive in and I'm going to use it. So thankfully I have him to help ease me into this new virtual world, because to be honest, I heard of Zoom peripherally. I said, oh, Zoom sounds nice. I'd rather see someone in person. I just didn't really understand all the technicalities of it, but it does soften the blow knowing that my fiance has all the equipment and is very, very well versed in all that stuff. With that said, there was a little bit of anxiety in the beginning when it came to beginning to create my content, specifically going on IG Live for the first time. I had never done live before. I'd always been interested, but again, I always thought, oh, if people want to see me live, they can come in person and see me perform somewhere. Well, my fiance and I were talking, and he says, Lulu, I really, really think that one thing that's going to help you get out of, being down in the dumps, because I was in a very, very low place for honestly the first 2 months of the lockdown. He said, I think that you should hold a virtual concert and you should do it through IG Live. There are instrumentals of all the pieces that we've written together. And I politely said, no, thank you. But then I thought about it and I said, what's going to bring me joy? And Alysia, thank you so much for just driving the point home that now is the time to find your joy and live in that joyous space, as opposed to thinking, oh crap, we're going to be locked down for some months. Oh, I have to create. Oh, I have to practice. I have to. When you approach things in a very laborious and almost, just a very tense manner, it's not going to be fun, no matter what it is, whether you're working out, whether you're, creating new content. And so I thought about it. I said, what does make me happy? Performing makes me happy. And so I kind of, with the help of Chris, I got over the whole like behind the scenes technical nerves, because again, that's something completely new. And I ripped that Band-Aid off and I sang for 45 minutes and people loved it. But more importantly, I was able to tell my stories and to be completely open and honest and say, hey, this song is about, the turmoil that I feel when it comes to the identity issues that I had, which is what Between Two Worlds, my latest album, is about, basically. And so using music, especially right now, as a vehicle to have these hard conversations, because we're all going through different versions of the exact same thing, using it as a conduit for awareness and healthy conversation and healing and empowering, that kind of made me just break down the anxiety walls. Also, I'm learning with the help of my therapist that anxiety for me is a habitual behavior. It's a habitual pattern. If I don't see it, or if I don't feel it where I normally would, I find that I go looking for it, and then I find the anxiety and I'm like, oh great, I feel better, but I really don't, because I'm just an anxious hot mess again. So it's just a little bit of rerouting that I had to do. And at the end of the day, I think, is this going to empower people? Is this going to heal people? Is this going to heal myself, while being transparent and using my artistry to send out conversations and awareness and love? If the answer is yes, then that's all that matters.
I love that so much. And I love what you said about anxiety. I will just share, like, my mom just shared with me this week the expression that worry is like a rocking chair. Like, you feel like you're going someplace, so there's like comfort in that, but you're not really going anywhere, And I was just listening to a podcast that I highly recommend to everyone. I'm obsessed with podcasts right now, and Brene Brown has one called Unlocking Us, and the one that just dropped is about a book called Stretch. And it's really about, to me, what we're talking about right now, about the difference between stretching yourself and chasing. And like, for me, doing on anything on social media kind of feels like I'm chasing. Mm-hmm. So I didn't do it because I didn't have a cute fiance to like gently, and I'm like, well, I'm not a singer, like, well, I have nothing, but so I had to go like, oh, maybe a movie, and I bow to the people. Like, so many people have created this incredible content, like you, and like I have another friend who's like creating actual content that I look forward to watching on Instagram. Like, it's become part of my joy, is watching performances like yours on Instagram. It's part of my entertainment. It's like, I never went to social media for content really until this period of time, and now I really do. Josiah Bell, who's another one who I'm like, and like, I look forward to people's content, but it wasn't my truth. Like, for me to do that felt like chasing. And it's so important that we check in with our soul about like, what does my artist soul need to feel joy? Like, I really enjoy taking in that content, but making that content doesn't feel good, but maybe like painting feels good to me, or whatever it is in a particular day, and every day is different. Like, I went through a massive cooking and baking phase that was deeply cathartic. I painted furniture for a while, like my daughter redid her room 10 times, and that was her way of like expressing herself and like having a sense of control, I think, and creativity around her space in this feeling of everything's out of control. She got to be creative in her space and rearrange things to make it feel good. And we all need to, I guess, honor our truth that way, you know?
Yeah. No, I love the way that you both talk about that so much. And one of the things I wanted to ask you about, Diana, is one of the things I love so much about your art is it never feels like you're just creating a piece and then that's where the conversation ends. You're always thinking about continued ways and continued levels of audience engagement, whether it's, you know, a video piece in Times Square where your team are talking to people about what their interpretation is and really kind of seeing how people understand it, or even just when you're performing in the theater, the way that you engage with an audience in the room. And so I was really interested in the unique challenges that have been presented to you in terms of creating art within this digital space, how you've had to think very differently about the way that you are going to continue those conversations beyond just the pieces itself that you're continuing to make.
Thank you. I mean, that's a really clarifying question that I need right now, like even to hear you as the mirror say that back to me, because oh, and also fun fact, Alicia's daughter has my love sack, if she still does. I don't know if she got rid of it.
Totally does.
Yes, awesome.
That's one of the reasons she had to rearrange.
Right, was for the love sack. In case everyone's like, what's that sexual euphemism? You can just Google what a love sack is and figure it out. So anyway, what is happening? What am I talking? Oh, right. It's been an interesting ride, and I've never been so excited to be off social media, and it's something I never gave myself permission to do until now, and I'm off of it, and I kind of just secretly slowly left, and I'm really allowing myself to take that break because it has been in constant conversation. I have been very out there and very unapologetically so, and now I feel like is my time to hunker down and honor my soul and myself and my truth in a deeper way that can help me transcend past pain, if that makes sense. You know, I'm just really trying to create work with a deeper integrity. And doing the hate letter reading on Zoom was incredible, was so amazing. And real talk, I don't know what the future of that project is. I just know that I feel so hopeful for it. I just know that people will champion that work and it will be the right people. And I do, but real talk, it is taking longer than I want it to. And it has took longer than I wanted it to. And it does take longer for me to find my people who let me be me, who invite me to be me. But then when I do find my people, it is so rewarding and it feels so amazing, even if it does take longer. And real talk, I am writing right now a piece right now, a pilot right now about my going to a healing retreat for my childhood sexual abuse. And I'm also in the midst of it writing my first book, which is a book of autobiographical essays about my childhood and growing up. Both things are so deeply emotional that I actually don't think I could be on social media talking about it in that way, because it's so I need to take care of myself right now. And I was nervous about getting off of social media because I wanted to be a global citizen. I wanted to show up in the ways that I'm sure each of us in this Zoom room want to show up when it comes to inequities and bullshit, straight up bullshit. So, but I just kind of had to accept that I will do that work. I will do that work because it is deeply in me. And I want to also know that when I do that work to show up for other people, that's coming from a genuine place. I don't want to posture. I don't want to, show off about it. I want to really do a service, and I want my art to do a service. And real talk, in terms of conversations with my therapist, she really helped me suss out why I'm having so much trouble sleeping right now. And it's like, yes, the pandemic, yes, America's falling apart as we know it. And also I'm not surprised that it is, because, capitalism got us there. And as soon as you say on the stock market floor, CEOs connect your salary with the income that your business is making, everyone's going to chase the money and chase the greed. And that's why we're here. You know, that's where the isms come from. Okay, so blah, blah, blah. But anyway, because I'm doing all this deeply personal writing, that mixed with everything else that's going on, it's holding a lot. It's holding a lot. So really the way that I'm dealing with it right now is letting myself say pause and trusting that folks will still be there for me on the other side of this pause, and that I'll come out stronger and my work will be stronger.
I'll be there for you.
Thank you. Thank you. I need it.
And thank you for inspiring me. Like, you're making me go, oh, you know, I want to look at, like, when is the time right for me to take some time off from social media altogether? Like, that feels really scary to me, and hence delicious. So I really need to do that, clearly. So thank you for inspiring me in that way. Also, I want to be a meditation guru in your pilot.
Yeah, totally be total. And you, like, Pima Chodron has shown up a lot for me this time. Like, I feel like I was on a retreat with Pima Chodron via YouTube, because I was like, okay, I'm gonna go, like, be on a retreat with my girl.
I've been on silent retreat with her for like 4 days.
Damn. So
I love it. One of the things I wanted to ask you about, Alysia, is, you know, one of the things that I've really admired in the way that you've been using this online space these last few months is you're not just thinking about creating content for yourself, you've also been really conscious about community. You know, even just right back at the beginning, I remember you sending out a thing about a virtual Seder and just, like, really bringing community together, and kind of how that's been a really valuable tool to you throughout this whole time, and how you found new and different ways to connect with people and bring people into the room together.
Yeah. It's been, like, here's my secret, is I'm secretly, like, really shy. And I've taught myself not to be, but the interesting thing about this time is the introvert in me has had her space in a way. So it's been like, there's this part of me that's like, I never want to go out again. Like, I'm fine staying in this little house and not, and I love human beings, and I love connecting. So it's this weird, it's a dance, you know, it's a dance of when, what, and again, like, listening to, like, okay, when is the right time for what? But early on, when I knew that there was going to be no set for a while, it became, how can I serve, really? Like, how can I serve? Because normally it's, how can I serve as an artist and an actor? How can I serve in reference to community? So I've done so many PSA, like just yesterday I did an anti-vaping PSA, and I've been doing a lot of voting stuff and a lot of artists for Biden. And there's, over the 6 months, there's been just a lot of, how do I serve my communities? And again, on a daily basis, it's this interesting navigation of taking care of myself and making sure I'm not too out there, because I am really an introvert. And when I really navigating the energy flow, and my truth in this moment is the energy flow is totally different. Like, I was working on this PSA yesterday, and it was a couple of hours, and normally, you know, we do 20 hours on set, and I'm really used to that. And after 2 hours, I was wiped out, and I was like, oh, my energy flow during COVID times and during everything that's going on in the world is really different. And I have to appreciate that and value that and accept that and honor that, you know, and nurture myself in that way. Having said that, like, you know, Mary, when you I also I don't like being alone. So when Mara was like, hey, want to do this thing? I was like, yeah, how about I bring in some friends, because it's so much more interesting to me to have a conversation with other amazing artists that I deeply respect.
Mm-hmm. No, and I love it. I love the way that you immediately were like, let me pull together amazing women and we'll have this great conversation. And one of the things I was curious about in terms of the art world and entertainment in general is, there's always been so many barriers, particularly for women and for people of color, especially within the industry, because the barrier to entry is so challenging. And there is often that adage of like, you have to work for free, and not everybody's in a position to be able to do that if they're not financially supported by someone. And that's a reality that we've all faced for years. And I was really interested in kind of where you see that shifting and changing, because it feels like on the one hand there's an opportunity for people to create content in different ways, much more freely, but at the same time the industry is shifting and changing, and there's going to be a higher cost even to a film production. It's going to take longer to do everything. That's going to take more money, and so that's also going to make it more challenging in terms of just the number of roles available in the industry, and kind of for each of your respective industries where you see that direction swinging and where you see the issues arising.
I see that there's a lot of surface level change that is starting to take place right now. And in the beginning, I was very, I'm not gonna lie, I was very quick to judge the surface level. Let's have a talent agency webinar. The agency that I'm with, we had like a little conference call, and I believe that they do them every so often. And in my head, I thought, this is great because conversations are happening, but how do we move this from being a trend to something lasting? And that is honestly one of my biggest fears. Again, obviously, we know that there's just so much racial strife and tension right now, over 100-something days of protests, which, is beautiful in itself because it is just throwing in everyone's face in the world, but specifically in America, it's throwing in everyone's face the fact that there are certain issues, hence racism, that cannot be ignored, that can no longer be downplayed. We can no longer, comply. And for a long time, as a female and as a person of color, as a Black woman, I've complied so much because you just think, well, I'm a little fish. I'm one cog in this entire machine. If I say something, am I going to just get fired from this Broadway show and then have some other Black person who will tolerate it replace me? And that is, even though I found myself just, feeling very frustrated with me feeling complicit at times, but then I took a step back from myself and tried to look at all of this objectively. At the end of the day, this is trauma. This is trauma over and over again. Racism, it's like woven in the roots, the fabric of this country, yet a lot of people tend to ignore it. A lot of people, it's a very peripheral thing for them. So with that said, one of the things that I'm like constantly hoping and praying for is that, these changes that these major corporations are making, that these talent agencies are making, that, large and small, that, that are being made in the creative world, in the arts world, I just really, really hope that it's going to be lasting. And I hope that it's going to start from the surface level, because it has to start somewhere, and that it trickles all the way down, because down here is the problem, not up here. This thing has roots. And that's another reason why I decided to start my Instagram video miniseries called Frozen in the Face of Shock and Awe, talking about just traumatic events that have taken place. First of all, I'm a very direct person. I'm confrontational when I need to be. If there's something that I do not agree with, that I do not like, we will have a conversation about it and I will let you know. With that said, again, speaking of, just that trauma that you endure over and over again, being on the receiving end of microaggressive behavior, very derogatory, racial, just implicit and complicit bias, you tend to get frozen, you tend to get stuck. And then before you know it, you can't find your voice, which, oh, I hate. As a vocal person, you know, literally and figuratively, that is the part that is the most traumatic, is feeling as though, oh, I have no feeling in my body. This thing is so shocking. This thing is so traumatic that has been said to me that I can't find my words, you know? And so one way in which I personally want to make a difference, again, in creating this awareness and making sure that we have these conversations, no matter how hard they are, was to create a series that would, you know, give some comic relief to members of the Black community, because we have all gone through this before, but also, again, not only just within the Black community, but Black and white communities alike, having these conversations and admitting that, oh, you know what? I didn't say that, but I heard someone say that, and I thought that was kind of weird, but instead I just decided to walk away. You temporarily complied, you know? So it's just a matter of kind of like breaking down these walls, and it all starts with having these tough conversations. I need to talk, and you need to listen. You need to talk, and I need to listen. And I feel like we've never quite had that. We've never quite had that platform until now. And sadly, it just, you know, the entire world shutting down for people to finally see, oh, Black people are getting murdered, you know? So, sorry, I went on a little tangent there.
No.
Yeah, Chris and I, we talk about this all the time, and I'm gonna be a stepmom, and we have, well, he has 2 boys that are 8 and 10, and they're getting so big, and I'm nervous for them. And so everything that I do, and everything that I read up on, and everything that I try to actualize, I do it for them. I do it for my nephew. I do it for my sisters. I do it for my friends, you know? Anyway, all that to say, I believe that changes are starting to be made. I just hope that they're lasting. And at the end of the day, now is the time for me to take the bull by its horns and say, okay, Lulu, instead of waiting for these people to put certain plans in place, what can you do as an artist? What can you do as a woman, as an African American? What can you do to drive some awareness and get that conversation going? And sadly, it involves being very, very transparent and very open. And it was not easy for me personally to reveal all of these things that I was on the receiving end of, because I was afraid that people were going to say, oh my God, you're so weak. You should have said blah, blah, blah. But again, trauma. That is some traumatic stuff that we have gone through, and that we will continue to go through until some changes are made. So, yeah, that's my piece.
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing that. How about for you, Diana and Alysia?
What was the original question?
It's really just kind of about the shifting barriers in terms of people even just coming into the industry, and how that's really changing, because there's more of an opportunity for freedom for people to be able to create art without the means. But then at the same time, all of, you know, productions, there's going to be less jobs available and less opportunity, at least for the foreseeable future.
Well, I question that, you know, I do question that. Like, why is that? How have we perceived that to be true? You know, I think I'm in the real place of just demystifying myths, and everything that Lulu says resonates so hard, you know. And people, I feel like it's not only that Lulu is supremely talented and has been given like these incredible gifts, it's also that she clearly has a fire and a singular voice to say it and articulate it. And I feel like a lot of what people need is articulation, and that articulation is worth a lot of money and a lot of time. And so I don't necessarily feel like there is scarcity on the back end of this. And maybe that's just an optimist in me. Maybe that is because, you know, as somebody who grew up in poverty and very poor, and I've really had to do a lot of healing and assessing of that shift that mindset, you know. So now I know it's a daily practice to me that I've literally rewired my brain to be in an abundant mindset. You know, scarcity just didn't serve me. And so I don't know, maybe I've just tricked my brain / I've like found out the secret to happiness is just total and complete fucking ignorance. I don't know. I just know that I'm like all right now, you know. And I do think there's something to be said about, you know, there is like when people ask like, how'd you get so fearless, all this da, and I'm just like, I'm not fearless, I'm just deeply impatient. Like, you think I was going to be happy going into fucking Law and Order and like auditioning for fucking store clerk? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And that was going to be my living, and I was going to make $1,000 a day and be grateful for that? Fuck you. Fuck off. I am impatient. I have too much light to share. I've got too much to say. I care about too many people. I care about their happiness, their liberation, their spirit, their sweat, their fire. I want them to have a good time before they die. Fuck all y'all. You are dimming us. You are dimming our shine, and I won't stand for it. And you want me to put that energy into like a 3-line store clerk. You know what I mean? So it's just, I just feel like us thinking about it in terms of like, oh God, but how am I going to land that job and like get into that thing? It's like, that didn't serve anybody, because that's why the world is broken, right? It's no one knows what they're looking for. Nobody knows what they're looking for. All we have control over is our creative spirit and the fire we want to put out there. And you know, it's just in hearing, I hope what everyone is gathering when you hear Lulu talk, when you hear Alysia talk, what is amazing is that fire is so alive. Of course they're going to find their people and their support system. Period.
I kind of feel like just saying to y'all, like, aren't I the luckiest human that I'm friends with these people? Like, how lucky am I? And in reference to your question, hilariously, like I got an email last night from someone like, oh, I saw you as the nurse with one line in Law and Order. My first job, Law and Order, nurse, 2 lines. Yeah, I feel so similarly to what both of you wise women have said. I think, you know, the big difference is as a privileged white woman, I guess two things I can say is, one, I've always felt this fight for women, like to champion women, and until this year I didn't fully, deeply in my gut, bones, and soul understand that that like the fight for Black lives is my fight too. And I'm ashamed to admit this. Like, I really thought, oh, I'm not allowed to be in, like, that's not my conversation. I'm not welcome in that conversation. It feels so stupid to admit that, but that's my truth. Like, and now, you know, it's about to be, you were talking about community, and it's about to be the Jewish holidays. And I think my biggest apology, because during the Jewish holidays on Yom Kippur, you apologize. And my biggest apology is for my part in white supremacy and white privilege and white centering in a way, like, these are systems that I was, as people have said, like, I am a fish in its water, and I had no fucking clue how much it was part of my life. And I am so deeply sorry for my behaviors when I didn't stand up, when I didn't use my voice more, out of ignorance, really, out of not really understanding white supremacy, you know, and not understanding that word even, especially as a Jewish feminist liberal woman. I thought, like, I'm not part of that, you know, like white supremacy. I fight that, you know, my family were, you know, my family were in concentration camps, like, but it's so different. And hence I would say my answer in reference to systems, just like as an artist, I've always been like, fuck the system. I'm not waiting for the system. I'm going to create my own art. I'm going to empower women. I'm going to empower other artists to give them opportunity to be creative, and in, you know, in COVID times, to do it in a safe way, to create a safe space for people to be creative around racism. For me, it's, I'm powerless over the systems, but I am deeply powerful over myself. So I can make the commitment for the rest of my life to be part of anti-racism work, which means for me, like, I'm in an anti-racism group, like I'm doing lots of reading, and I'm committed to it for the rest of my life. Like, I'm committed that it's not going to be like a trend, because I too am deeply concerned that the industry or agencies or whatever are going to make this a cute trend, and nothing's really going to change. So I am powerless over that, but I know that I have deep, impactful power over myself. I have, you know, last night we were having dinner and my daughter was talking about doing a report for music on Bessie Smith. And she was starting to tell me some things about her, and she shared some facts. Like, she shared that, you know, she shared about Bessie Smith's parents, and I asked her some details, and she was like, I couldn't find the details. And I said, you know, isn't that interesting that, like, Beethoven's parents we know, like Mozart's parents we know, but you couldn't find those facts online. And how did she die? I couldn't find the facts online. And I started to like go there with her, and she started crying. She's like, Mom, I feel like you're criticizing me. And I was like, oh, my love, I'm not at all. But we need to have these conversations about how, like, facts about Black people are not as available as they are about white men specifically, and that's wrong. Like, and we're going to continue to have these uncomfortable conversations where I am not criticizing you at all, but we need to break out of our white centering and have these conversations on a daily basis, or nothing is going to change. So I think, to your question about the system, I don't know, but I know that I'm changing me.
That's really wonderful. And, you know, kind of jumping off the back of that a little bit, and because you were mentioning earlier, Alysia, doing a lot of work with Biden for 2020, I was interested in the way that kind of all of you are seeing the political landscape as artists and as storytellers and creators, and how everybody's looking differently. It's not just that we're in a different place politically than we were in 2016. The world is literally in a different place, and we're even just physically in our homes. And so much about political activism as well isn't just about reaching out to your bubble, it's about trying to connect with people beyond as well. And so I was really curious about the way that you've seen in your artistic spaces, people trying to navigate this and think about this differently in the way that they're utilizing their voices to try and connect in the way that we desperately need artists to right now.
A holistic level, as somebody who, you know, who's off social media for, I think I'm going to give it another week. I'm just learning so much about how deeply these people who do support Trump, how deeply they feel it, you know, and what they have, the ideologies they've attached themselves to that bring them comfort, and how to really change that. And I think that because I feel like no matter what happens, no matter what happens in November, there's going to be backlash. I mean, there just will be. And I find myself in preparation for that. And I find myself really understanding the necessity of art and creative spirit, and especially the creative liberation of the marginalized folks, you know, whatever the hot word, what does that even mean? And it's the folks who aren't making as much money as the other ones, you know, and how important that is, because I'm understanding that art is the only place where radical action and identities can exist, because it actually can't exist in politics. Because what's going to happen with politics, and we're just seeing an extreme version of the pendulum swinging, but essentially, you know, Joe Biden is, in my opinion, like it's a very middle choice. You know, politics will continue to fall in a middle, in between conservatism and liberalism, you know, and it's not quite, politics will never be queer enough for me. It'll never be slutty enough for me. It'll never be vagina-y enough for me. It'll never be black enough for any of us. You know, it'll never be Asian enough. It'll never be brown enough. Like, it just won't be. And the only space where we can practice that is in the arts, because that is like the modicum that can have, like, you know, a similar platform to politics. And I feel like, okay, fine, if Elizabeth Warren isn't going to be a fucking president, well, then someone give her a talk show. Then someone make sure that she has her own TV network. So I find myself preparing in that way. And maybe this is where I do kind of fall into my pessimism, is that I kind of lost something in terms of how effective can I be in the social media world, and can I bring my ideologies into like into a classroom setting. You know, I'm into doing workshops with younger folks. I'm doing a lot of teaching in spaces that I didn't normally take to before, and now I love it. You know, I'm doing a lot of like deep work with bigger groups of people online, and hoping that is in liberating these identities of the marginalized folks, that they can go forth with their unbridled joy, and not feel silenced and not feel small. All to say, we need everything. We need everything.
Thank you so much for saying that, Diana. I mean, I know that, you know, from the inside, it doesn't seem as though you're doing enough or rallying enough, but everything that you said, everything the both of you said, is just so incredibly inspiring, and it's making me want to continue to be selfless, literally, like not think about the self, not think about the anxiety or, oh, how will people receive this? Now is the time to grab onto people and have them grab onto more people and have them grab onto more people, because at the end of the day, we are all brothers and sisters. I don't understand why there's this huge divide, and it's extremely hurtful. But I'm also, speaking of, you know, optimism and such, I'm just trying really hard to put all of my focus and intention in humanity, the greater good of humanity. That has to be our driving force at this point. So thank you for saying that. You know, the work that you do, the work that you all do, is just so incredibly fantastic, and my head is just spinning, and I'm just saying this out loud. I'm vowing to be more selfless for humanity. We need it so badly. Oh God, I don't want to cry, but no. I just, that was on my heart. So thank you.
I cry when you were talking, so it's all good. Yeah. It's funny because we started this conversation, Mara, when you were saying like bringing, like, I love to bring people together, and to me, it's like it is because we're one big fucking family. You know,
yeah.
we're just Like, how can everyone not see we're just one big family, you know? And like, let's just all, you know, and sometimes the cousins fight, but we all love each other, you know, like, let's come from that place of love and respect, and that you have in a warm, nurturing family, you know, like, and you say difficult things, you know, like, I made my kid cry yesterday. And I apologize. I didn't apologize, actually. I really said it was not my intention I was not criticizing you. That was not my intention. But yeah, this is uncomfortable. Like, sometimes we have to have these uncomfortable conversations. Maybe I should apologize. Maybe I'll go apologize after this. But it's, you know, love is uncomfortable sometimes. Life is uncomfortable sometimes. It's not all supposed to be comfort. You know, comfort puts us to fucking sleep. We don't want to be comfortable all the time. That won't grow us. You know, I'll end with the Pema Chodron talks about there's like 3 layers. There's the inner layer of comfort, and then the next layer is the challenge learning zone, and then the next layer outside of that is the danger trauma zone. And you don't want to spend all your time in the comfort zone. You actually want to live in the learning challenge zone, which is uncomfortable. You also don't want to live in trauma danger, you know, and sometimes we end up in trauma danger, not by our own volition, hopefully. But you want to live in that challenge learning zone. You dip into comfort when you need to, but live in the challenge learning zone, because it's what's best for humanity, as you said, Lulu, but it's also best for your soul, you know, as you said, Diana, like, you're not comfortable. I think all 3 of us are not comfortable in comfort all the time. We're people, even with our anxiety, we know that like the comfort won't serve us or humanity. It's that learning zone that will serve our own souls and that of humanity.
Yeah, I truly can't even express how much I just agree with everything wholeheartedly that all of you are saying. And I don't think I've ever nodded so much during a panel, because every single sentence that you each speak is so vital and so important, especially right now. And so I just want to extend my incredible gratitude to all of you, and also to Alysia for, you know, bringing this amazing group together. So thank you so much to all 3 of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's so nice meeting you all too.
Yeah. Go get it.
Yay!